وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجهه سبحانه وتعالى وثوابه وقربه. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا من فضلك علما وهب لنا حكما والحقنا بالصالحين وعلمنا تأويل فقهنا في الدين واهدنا سواء السبيل برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. سبحانك لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك فلك الحمد حتى ترضى ولك الحمد إذا رضيت ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد حتى ترث الأرض ومن عليها وأنت خير الوارثين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Continuing with the book Wasa'il Wusul ila Shama'il Rusul, the means of approach to understanding the in and outer beauty and character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the famous book by Imam al-Shaykh Yusuf al-Nabahani. And we are busy with chapter 5, section 1, with regards to the character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the narration of Sayyidina Ali to his son, Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And the narration mentioning also about how Sayyidina Hassan and Hussein were competing with each other, who could gather and learn more information about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the first section dealt with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he was in his home, and then the second section, which we are dealing with, the last bit of it, is how was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam outside his home. And the narration was mentioning that the Prophet ﷺ used to bring people together and he would not cause them to scatter, and he would honor the nobles, and he was cautious of people, and he would be on guard of them. There is a concept in Arabic called al-mudara. Al-mudara, and there is an opposite concept called al-mudahana. And al-mudara means to be on guard with regards to people, where for the sake of one's deen, one gives up something of the dunya, or one deals with people in a way, right, which is not deception, but which is protective of one's deen. So one might use certain ruses to remove oneself from company, so that they don't fall into ghiba and namima, right? One might, for example, if one is invited for a function and they know that there is haram in that particular function, but not going for the function might mean that this person will become offended. So a person can on his own go and make another appointment at that particular time, right? And then use this as an excuse to tell the person, I have something else on. He can't lie and say, no, I had this before, if he didn't have that appointment before. And the opposite of this is mudahana, is when a person then uses the dunya and he sells his deen, right? So he gives up the deen for the sake of the dunya. He has to keep up his principles and morals with regards to certain things, but he pays no attention to that, and he would prefer to have something of the paltry price of the dunya. And this usually happens in politics, right? And this is why many of the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not get involved in politics, because in Arabic there's a terminology, they say as-siyasa khasasa, that politics is a dirty game, and it's very, very difficult to maintain a state with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inward and outward, when one is involved in politics. Even as Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz, when he was given the khilafah, and also from Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, it would be mentioned about him that he would sigh the long evenings, and he would say, who is that will take this responsibility away from me, with whatever it contains, the burden and the responsibility that it would contain. And we also find that Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he reached a point in his life where he made dua, or he went to one of the pious people in his, after he had established the khilafah and he had gotten rid of some of the misdoings of the way the government was being run at the time before him, etc., etc. After having distributed, collected all the zakah and the Baytul Mal, and justice had been established, he then went to one of the pious and he took an oath or he made this pious person take an oath that he would grant him his request. He said, I need something very important from you. I said, most definitely, what is it? He says, take an oath, you'll give me this thing. If someone like, say, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz or someone of great stature comes to you and says, I need something from you, if you go out of your way, you'll say anything. And so he takes the oath. He says, make dua to Allah to take my soul away. He says, Amirul Mu'mineen, I can't do this. He says, you've got to keep your oath and you've got to keep your promise. Right? And obviously, there's a way, even in Arabic, in the Arab terminology, there's sometimes when you have a need from someone, for example, in Tareem, they would say, you'd go to someone and say, Qul say it's a done deal. So you'd say, what is it? If you trust the person, you say it's a done deal. And he says, okay, this money is for you. You're not allowed to refuse it. You can't do anything. Right? He's like, no, I can't. He says, khalas, the word is the word. You've given the word, you can't do that. Or for example, if something was needed or any favor or any dua was requested, etc. So this sheikh that Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz went to, I don't recall his name, he ended up making the dua. And Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz then also pointed to one of the young children in his household. A young child, an infant or a small boy whom he knew would face difficulty if he was brought up now in the palace of the Khilafah after his death. So he said, and this young boy with me as well. And so it says the next day, Sheikh Sayyid Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the young boy and the sheikh passed away together. Because he knew, Sayyid Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is not around as well then, right? Then who are those who are going to keep justice? Now, and the Prophet ﷺ, when he spoke, this is the test of this ummah. The test of this ummah is love of wealth and love of leadership. These have been the downfall of the ummah, right? Vying for leadership, infighting, right? Fighting for the throne and the dunya. The Prophet ﷺ told the ummah and he says, لَا الْفَقْرَ أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَا الْفَقْرَ أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ. I do not fear poverty for you. Instead, the Prophet ﷺ said, I fear that the dunya will be opened up for you, right? As it was opened up for those before you, meaning an abundance of wealth. And then it will destroy you like it did those before you. And so these have always been throughout history. And so the solution is for people to stay away from these things, or to be trained if they are ever put in positions of power and positions of responsibility where they have to deal with wealth or they have to deal with leadership, then they have been trained in knowing how not to succumb to the temptations of this. But this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and fadl and grace whom He grants, whom He wills. The Prophet ﷺ spoke about the leadership of the ummah, how it would then, after the death of the Khulafa al-Rashidin, not return to what it was until the end of times. Right? So by the textual evidence of the hadith, there is no government that will come that will truly represent the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its complete sense until the time of Imam Mahdi. Although we do find throughout history that there were many just rulers, and there were also corrupt rulers as well. Islamic history is not also free from rulers who were corrupt and rulers that did different types of things. But generally, when there was justice, right, there might have been things here and there, but when there was justice was upheld, the oppressed were taken care of, right, the wealth was distributed majority of the time in avenues of good, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala maintained a good status quo, if we can call it. But as soon as corruption sets in, and as soon as the head starts to rot, meaning from the government level right on top, corruption, etc., then naturally this leads to the downfall. And that's why it's very important for people also, and we are asked in the Quran to travel through the earth and see the end of those who came before, meaning to travel, study history. Studying history is part of a Muslim's duty to understand where we're coming from, right? And to understand the izzah and the honor of the ummah and this great legacy that the Prophet ﷺ left and those who came after him. And so the narration goes on to say that the Prophet ﷺ would inquire about his companions when they were not around and ask the elect about the general welfare of others. He would ask about what's happening in the community. He would praise what is beautiful and strengthen it, and would condemn what is ugly and weaken it. Meaning when the Prophet ﷺ saw any good qualities, he would strengthen it in a person. And this was also one of the distinguishing traits of the Prophet ﷺ, is that he knew how to bring out the good in people. And this is the sunnah, to bring out the good in people and not bring out the worst in people. And if we recognize good qualities in people, to be able to develop it. And one of the things societies are in need of, right, is every single Muslim has to have some portion that they are playing, or some role they are playing for the upliftment of the deen, for the upliftment of their society, right? And sometimes sometimes the non-ulama can do more for the deen than the ulama themselves, right? And this means, for example, if in a society people, and this we keep repeating this over and over, the responsibility of the deen is not only the ulamas. Every single person, every single human being has to think, in my society, it is my responsibility. Meaning a person can be a IT technician, or he can be an engineer, he can be a doctor or a lawyer. He has to think, how can I use the knowledge and the resources that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me to support connecting people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, support the deen. And we mean the deen here, all the avenues, right, of upliftment. Part of the duties of a society is to uplift the society. If there is not a decent hospital in a certain area, then it is a duty of the Muslims to put their resources together to build a decent hospital, right? If healthcare is expensive in certain societies, then it's the duty of the Muslims, first and foremost, to try and make healthcare easily available for those who can't afford it. If there is not appropriate schools in communities, and it means, or if it means that by sending our children to school, they will be losing their morals and their values, or by sending our children to universities, right, they will be falling into major sins, which completely destroy their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it is the collective duty of the community of Muslims to create alternatives. And they are sinful if they don't. And if people have the resources to do things but they not actually do it, then they are sinful. And so the upliftment of the society, economically, right, emotionally, intellectually, in terms of healthcare as well, it is the duty of a Muslim community, if they are living in an area and there are potholes in the street, not to wait for the government to come in and mend those potholes or fix them up. They, as a Muslim community, have to do it themselves if they have the resources. There's a difference if a community doesn't have the resources. But to expect and wait for people to come, and the Muslim community has to be proactive. So how can I do, and we have to understand also that when we are giving to our community, when we are giving to our society, we are uplifting our, even just this physical aspect of the dunya aspect of life, but the intention is there to assist our fellow believers, and this is part of the deen. If we are living in areas in which there is not a sewage system or sufficient garbage disposal system, it is the duty of the Muslims to. So I'm talking about our own communities. What then about communities that we know don't have this infrastructure, right? And everything comes back to the ability and capability of a person. No one is asked to do more than they are capable of. But we will find that one of the greatest detriments is when people are only concerned about themselves. And so there is no communal mashwara. There's not even, we don't even have to say a meeting. But there's no concern amongst people, right, in which they would actually discuss these affairs, that it is our responsibility as an ummah to do this. You know, if we take certain organizations that are worldwide organizations now, and their hands stretch all over the world, and they have influence even in governments. And if you read the history of these organizations, right, many of them started over a cup of coffee or a simple conversation between two people who had a concern about something, and the intention was sincere, and they started. They said, if we don't start, no one else is going to start. And they start, and then get one person on board and get another person on board. And what happens? Over time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts benefit and barakah into a person's sincere intention. And so the Prophet ﷺ, his was the balanced course, unswerving from one extreme to another. Now, معتدل الأمر غير مختلف. The Prophet ﷺ, and this is a key and foundation, the Prophet ﷺ was always in moderation. Islam is always in moderation. And if someone wants an easy way out of all their problems, difficult situations, always take the moderate path. Because one will come across in life with regards to everything, political spheres, economic, one's personal life, even in fiqh, right? One will come across extremes. Even in the deen, in the manifestation of the deen, we have extremes. And the nature of the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides is that they always seek the moderate path. And they don't go to these extremes. And one will find generally when one is in a situation where they don't know what to do, they will find that they are caught between two extremes. And the way out is to keep the moderate path. How does one always remain in the middle and not allowing themselves to swerve? With the way one can be a disciplinarian in the way they bring up their children, or they can be extremely lax. Same thing the way one treats one's spouse, the way one is with their society, etc. And the way is always a moderate path. One has to be maneuvering between these two extremes, maintaining this balance and this moderation. And this is the nature, this was the character, and this was the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. نعم. لا يغفل مخافة أن يغفلوا أو يميلوا لكل حال عنده عتاد أي شيء معد ومهيأ لا يقصر عن الحق ولا يجاوزه الذين يلونه من الناس خيارهم أفضلهم عنده أعمهم نصيحة وأعظمهم عنده منزلة أحسنهم مواساة ومؤازرة. نعم. And so the Prophet ﷺ was never remiss, right? Meaning in reminding and guiding. He was always giving advice, fearing that others might become remiss or weary. And the way the Prophet ﷺ also would give advice and admonish Sahaba, they say that the part of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was that he never gave talks and lectures every single day to the Sahaba. Some days he left them, right? And this is also so because when someone's hearing the same thing over and over and over, then there tends to become a bit of familiarity, or the nafs sets in and one can get bored. So the Sahaba also, they would have loved to have heard from the Prophet ﷺ every single day. But they say the Prophet ﷺ didn't do that to us. He left us some days, right? And sometimes, and they say, zur ghibban tazdad hubban. There's an Arabic, what do they call this? A mathal. In English we say parable, not parable. So the saying says, zur ghibban tazdad hubban. Visit people from time to time, and you will increase, or they will increase in love for you. Because if you visit someone every single day, what's going to happen? They'll get tired of you. So even your company and how you keep company with people, besides there are people that one feels extremely close to and one doesn't mind spending time in their company, and this would be family. But one will notice in one's life that acquaintances come and go, friends come and go, neighbors come and go. And people at one point in your life, and this is how we need to bring our children up as well. You should teach them. There's no such thing as, lifelong friends. Meaning lifelong friends is when you have people that you feel close to you, you don't let your guard down and think that this person is going to now be with me for the rest of my life, or I'll be for them the rest of my life. And people take oaths of, doing certain things. And then as soon as they move localities, it's like they've forgotten about each other, right? So as we said yesterday, the conditions of brotherhood, sisterhood are extremely, the conditions are very, very tough in the way in which it was in the times of the Sahaba and the way with the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the Prophet ﷺ also never burdened the Sahaba with more than they could bear. And he was duly prepared for every eventuality. And this is also the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He would take precautions, but he had everything he needed for the task ahead of him. He planned ahead of him, right? And we would see also with some of the mashayikh as well, in the morning, as soon as they go home after the morning lesson or ishraq, they'll be given their schedule for the entire day. Who they're meeting, who's coming to visit today, right? Where they need to go, where is their program, etc., etc. And they have a set program in place. They don't live their lives haphazardly, right? And they also have in that schedule contingencies, right? So for example, when they would have lunch, people that want to come or people that pop up without any schedule or whatever, then they have to know, okay, this is the time where you might or might not get the opportunity to see the sheikh. And so the Prophet ﷺ as well, right? People they weren't able to just walk uh, up to him and take of his time without prior planning. And there's a difference, obviously, in the coming and going. When someone comes in, they come and they have a simple question. But for example, someone wants to discuss an important matter, whatever, the person needs to make an appointment. It's part of the sunnah to make appointments and keep appointments. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so strict with the Sahaba in that whoever wanted a private meeting with him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first ordered them that they have to take out charity and give charity before they actually meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. أشفقتم أن تقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقة يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ناجيتم الرسول فقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقة. All who believe, when you desire to sit in private with the Prophet ﷺ, then give charity before you actually do that. Right? And this was also as a way of purifying the nafs, so that they don't take up the time of the Prophet ﷺ unnecessarily. Because when one plays charity, one gives money, then one attaches worth to what they want to do. And then obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then tells the Sahaba, is it difficult for you to do so? Right? And then the verse was abrogated. Right? The verse was abrogated after that, in which it was not required to give charity. And although Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu had already practiced on it, and they say he gave one entire dinar gold coin in charity before intending to meet the Prophet ﷺ at the time when that verse was still applicable, before it was abrogated. And we would find this is also the practice of people of etiquette. When they want to meet an important personality, or especially people that are of the ulama, and they fear that they don't want the meeting to go wrong, or they don't want the meeting to be misinterpreted, right? And especially if it's with important people, then they would give charity with the intention that Allah allow the meeting to happen in an amicable manner, right? This would go for, especially if people, reconciliation between spouses, right? The one who is in charge of them must be encouraged to give charity. And charity wards off sadaqatu sir tutfi ghadab ar-rabb. There's a hadith that secret charity wards off the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And giving charity takes away of a lot of the negativity of certain things. And a person should always they should have this habit of taking out charity. If a person wants to do a certain project, they're organizing a conference, they're organizing a meeting, right? They're organizing a da'wah trip, they're organizing a certain types of lesson, certain type of project. When they are budgeting for that project, right, they must take out a portion of that budget for charity, with the intention that Allah puts barakah and blessings in that and wards off any evil from that. Because generally, many times people that don't do that, we find that's why things go wrong, or there's added costs, right? Or something happens and the tickets have to be changed, or something happens and the venue needs to be changed, there's a mix-up with whatever, and there's sometimes what we would regard as a waste of money. It's not a waste of money, that's a purification of the budget, so that inshallah, hopefully things go well. And so this is how we learn also from the Sunnah and from the teachings of the Quran how to deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to meetings, charity, organizations and projects. So the Prophet ﷺ was duly prepared for every eventuality. He neither neglected a right nor did he exceed in it. Right? That is, the Prophet ﷺ never neglected the rights of others, nor did he take from them more than what was required. He didn't take advantage of people, and this is very, very, very important, especially for people in positions of authority. When a person is in a position of authority, right, either as a community leader, and especially if they are a representation of the deen, or they're in a position in which they are teaching the deen, whether they are scholars, right, or community leaders, etc., it is a disservice to take advantage of people. And in this regard, we find this has, because of the nature of this, we would find even in politics, that they're not allowed to take gifts from people, because gifts are regarded as a form of bribery, right? Bribery and corruption. And people say, no, it's a good heart. Okay, the question we must, and from both sides, the person that is giving the gift was the one you are giving this gift to. If they were not in that position, would you still give that gift? Right? That's the question. And so therefore we say sometimes people, out of the goodness of their hearts, in inverted commas, because if they really had to search down, they would realize that they're only doing it for an ulterior motive. Out of the goodness of their hearts, they actually corrupt the people they want to actually help. And if one is insincere in wanting to help anyone, they would help them in a way in which they are not in the picture, right? So you want to give the politician or you want to give the community leader, but don't give it to them directly in front of their face. Why do you need to be in the picture? Give it to someone else, by the way, where no one knows and Allah knows. That is a sign of sincerity. And with those who are receiving, the duty is not, if you are in a position, and for example, sometimes there's rules and regulations, and when you find they would refuse. Some of the mashayikh in Syria, I remember students would want to come and give them things, they'll say, Ahlan wa sahlan, you want to give us anything? Just don't attend our lessons anymore. Right? But now he says, how can you giving me a gift? It's inevitable that the heart of a person inclines more towards someone that has been kind to them. Right? And we have to treat all of our students equally. What about the students that can't afford these gifts? So they would teach them that you, a student who have resources as well, don't corrupt the mashayikh with your wealth. And if you want to support them in a way and they don't, you're not, the hand who gives is better than the hand that receives. And those that even support the deen, we would find this even with people that are supporting masjids, right? They are giving, there is the sense in what's happening, the way things work is that the traders and the people of resources want to make the deen subservient to them. And they want their hand to be higher than the hand of the deen, higher than the hand of the ulama. Here, take this. We are supporting this sheikh, we are supporting this institute, we are supporting this project. And this was never the way of the people, the pious people of resources of the past. They would assist the deen in a way in which the deen has izz. And they would put themselves down under the deen, not the other way around. Right? And so a person says, so and so, or this particular sheikh, or this particular masjid, and whatever, right? And the guy would speak in his private circles, to give an indication that I'm supporting this one, I'm funding this one, etc., etc. Whereas in the past, what the pious people would do is they would go on their own and they would use their resources, invest it in a waqf, right, in an endowment, and allow the endowment to take care of this particular person or that particular masjid. In Tarim and in Hadramaut, when people would come to the mashayikh to say, we want to build a masjid, we want to do this project, that project, the first question they'll ask is where's the waqf for it? Where is the continuous funding and running of that particular project? Right? The independency of the project from people. Because what is the deen become in many times? Our masjids, our masajid, our Islamic institutions, and unfortunately our ulama, we've made them beggars. They have to come to the people of resources, support our institution, support our masjid, we need to pay lights, we need to pay electricity, right? And if the people of resources were wise, they would regard it as a detriment to society that the ulama have to come and ask them to help them with regards to the projects, with regards to the deen and the upliftment of the deen. Where are we using our resources, right, correctly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is very, very, very important. And on the other hand, it is improper for the ulama to use their positions of authority to extract help from people, to go and ask people, right? We would find, even with certain ulama, they would rather die of hunger than even to just let people know that they are in need. Many, many times, and there's many examples of this, right? And there's so many examples which people will only maybe realize on the day of Qiyamah, right? Of ulama, of people of deen, but just for the sake of the izz of the deen, they knew that I have to give honor to the deen. I cannot denigrate the deen by extending my hand to anyone under any circumstances, even if I am in need. Because the hand that gives is better than the hand that receives. I am a representation of the Prophet ﷺ. This hand must never be below any other hand, right? And they would go and rather spend the night crying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and wait for Allah to turn the hearts of someone that would come and assist and help, and also in a way which maintains the izzah of the deen. And so it is not appropriate for people who are in positions of authority, and especially ulama and students of knowledge, to go to people and say, I need help. Okay. And more so if that is a personal need which has nothing to do with what they are doing in terms of teaching. And there might be a need, for example, and we mentioned this from a form of strictness, to calling ourselves to account, but the nature of the way life works is they are, and people don't support the ulama and they don't support the institutions, so some of them are forced to even mention and go on collection drives and mention about certain projects that they're doing, that funding can be given, but people need to be aware before the ulama come to them. But in the same vein, a person in position of authority, especially religious authority, cannot ask people for their personal needs, right? Or even give people the impression that they have some personal need, knowing that these people will actually take care of them. So if I am in a position of authority and I go to a restaurant and a person of, I'm a religious leader or scholar, whatever, and I go to a restaurant, and I know that if I go to a restaurant, the people that are there are not going to allow me to pay for that. Then as a religious duty, it's not permissible for me to agree to go to that restaurant unless I make the condition with them that, listen, if we're going, we're sharing the account. What happens then if a person tells one of his constituents, you know what, I just need to get something for my family in the mall, you know? Will those people allow him to pay for it? Of course not. So what happens when people of authority now use the authority, but secretly what are they trying to do? They're trying to gain favor with people. And that's the one, the calling to account is from both sides. As a society, those who give have to call themselves to account, and those who are in positions of authority, those who need also need to call themselves to account. And we would see this with the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that they had this izzah, right? That they never extended their hands to anyone under any circumstances. And they would prefer to teach in their homes, right? They would put their family behind the cupboard. They had a one-bedroom home. They would put their family behind the cupboard, right? When the students would come, he put his wife and his daughters behind the cupboard and he'd teach the students. And he lived like that for his entire life. But he would refuse to accept 1 cent from people, because everything comes with conditions ultimately, right? And it's very, 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 very rare to find people give large amounts of money except that there's some ulterior motive. Now, salama wal afiyah. And obviously we're mentioning all of this just by the way we call ourselves to account. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for the ummah and everyone in realizing their duties. And the nature of life in the time that we are living in, especially the world that we are living in, is we are all under a form of economic oppression, right? We are under a form of economic oppression, and for people to be able to look after their societies, look after their institutions, their masajid, their schools, their madrasas is part of the Islamic duty, and how Muslims also pool their resources and look after to even protect their wealth. And when we say economic oppression, is because the system is now designed and geared to steal people's wealth and to reduce the buying power. And so it becomes a duty of Muslims to pool the resources together and to think of how to protect their wealth and how to protect also the buying power of the Muslims. And for people to think collectively rather than thinking individually. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal 'asr. Innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabri wa tawasaw bis sabri. وإلى حضرة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الفاتحة.